Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Eileen and I am a cybersecurity consultant at Ingram Micro Asia Pacific. Along with me, we have our colleague Shakil Ali.
Hello everyone, this is Shakil Ali. I am a lead cybersecurity consultant with Ingram Micro Asia Pacific.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about cybersecurity resilience and maturity assessment, and also known as CRMA. So Shakil, in terms of CRMA, could you tell us more about this framework and how it can help organizations today?
Sure. So the CRMA is a very comprehensive and compendium framework that allows us to perform cybersecurity maturity assessment in order to understand the overall posture of the organization.
So let's say if I'm working for financial services organization, why would I need such assessment? And how does this framework help to address some of the key concerns in today's emerging trade landscape?
Okay, so we actually take top-down approach with accurate point-in-time assessment in order to determine the organization maturity level and help to identify the gaps and their associated risks in the current state of processes, practices, and technologies, whether it be to comply with internal or external regulations, audits, or even practices. And subsequently, it also helps to prepare the actual security roadmap for the organizations based on the identified gaps as a part of an improvement plan.
Oh, that's interesting. Could you share with us more about what are the key business or market drivers for CRMA?
Yes, there are various factors that contributes to the need of CRMA type of assessment, such as there is an exponential growth towards year-on-year data breaches against the organization, and the attackers are employing a creative way to defeat the defenses of the organizations. For example, the use of simple passwords instead of complex ones. The other part to it is to maintain the regulatory compliance requirements in order to avoid any hefty fines imposed by the regulators in the event of data breaches or some sort of business disruption caused by the cyber attack. Additionally, this can also be viewed as to capture the organization's current state of security defenses and how well they are equipped in order to counter against these cyber attacks.
And if I were to ask who could be the potential industry client for this sort of engagement?
Okay, so coming to the point with regards to who could be our potential industry clients, well, this may involve various industry verticals, whether it be the FSIs, government institutions, telcos, utilities, and healthcare. Each of these industry verticals got some stringent cybersecurity requirements in place, whether it be the regulations or standards. Each one of these demand for a consistent and robust cybersecurity landscape for any given enterprise environment. And therefore, it can only be determined by comprehensive and very structured maturity assessment.
I see. So earlier you mentioned about who, how, and why a CRMA assessment is needed by various type of organizations. So would you be able to share more with us on this CRMA framework, such as how do you approach this framework in order to meet the today's enterprise demand for maintaining the infrastructure security?
Yes, the CRMA assessment has been driven based on two industry frameworks. One is an NIST framework, the other is a SABSA framework. The NIST framework is being utilized to assess the enterprise-wide security governance and directives in relation to the policies, procedures, standards, and guidelines to determine the overall current state of the IT enablement of the organizational processes. While on the other hand, we have SABSA framework is being utilized to assess and review the current state of technology processes that are in place in order to follow the core principles such as your logical network segmentation, data flows, user access controls, secure configuration, etc.
And what are the key control areas or functions that you look at in order to determine the maturity of the organization in the context of cybersecurity?
Each of these frameworks as a part of the CRMA engagement have a unique set of control functions, categories, objectives, each focus on a specific need in the security context of the organization. So we typically look into various security domains tied to the processes supported by the technology components and their relevant business ownerships and practices. This helps to identify potential gaps within each required control area, whether it be related to asset management, data security, employee security awareness and training program, third-party risk management, incident detection and response, and recovery. And we also subsequently focus on technology stake and the operational strategies around it. Let's say DLP, web application firewall, your security information event management system, advanced EDR, XDR solutions, the vulnerability management, your configuration management, and so on.
Now we understand more on how this CRMA engagement is driven from renowned industry standards to help organizations to assess their current cybersecurity state. My question is, how do you go about assigning the maturity stage to the client's organization? Is there some sort of like criteria that you're looking at?
Oh, well, that's a very good question. So for this assessment, we utilize two different scales. One for assessing and determining the overall maturity state across various different control areas within the organization. Second is to assign the priority to those gaps that have been identified during the assessment, whether it be a process-related gap, technology-related gap, or people's-related gap in relation to the skills and training.
So would you be able to elaborate more on these two scales?
Oh yes, the maturity matrices that we utilize is based on CMMI, and that is the industry's known maturity model. This would help to identify and reflect where the organization stands in an average paradigm by comparing it to their industry peers through benchmarking the progressive scale and providing a guidance to the client for achieving the target state from where they are today and in their next 2 to 3 year cycle. The priority matrices, on the other hand, provides the organization with 3 levels of sprints to execute the improvement plan as a part of their security roadmap. It all depends on the criticality of the gaps identified and the prioritization as per the management decision to close those gaps either sooner or later.
I see. So how do you go about executing such project engagement? Is there any standard approach that you are currently following?
Yes, we do have our standardized IAM project delivery approach that ties back specifically to this sort of GRC engagement. First, we look at the overall scope and identify the key stakeholders across different BUs or departments, then execute the CRMA project-related activities in phase-by-phase approach. Then, we gather all the existing information in the form of documentation that is already in place in order to determine the current state of processes, practices, skills, and training of the people. Thereafter, we organize discussion with the key stakeholders to cross-check and validate their current state of maturity across all the control areas. And then we are able to identify the existing gaps, comparing it to the industry best practices in the context of cybersecurity.
So after you have identified the gaps, will you be providing some sort of report with recommendations to the customer?
Yes, of course. We provide a detailed report that would highlight the gaps in relation to the key elements, people, process, and technology. And that would subsequently help to draw the security roadmap for the organization.
Wow! It looks like this CRMA assessment is quite a detailed process in assessing the organization's maturity. So are you able to tell us about any of your recent experience where you've been engaged by the customer to deliver such a project engagement?
Yes, we did similar advisory engagement with one of the large telco based in Singapore, and we helped the client to ensure consistently meeting their compliance requirements in relation to Cybersecurity Agency Code of Practice.
So as per what you mentioned earlier, did you go through all the key elements of people, process, and technology in the context of cybersecurity to assess the client's existing environment?
Yes, that's right. So overall, it includes but not limited to ensuring that the existing controls should effectively operate and meet the audit requirements, as this whole project engagement was divided into multiple work streams, which is comprised of compliance assessment, vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, post-configuration review, and enterprise architecture review, that eventually augment the overall validation against the technical and operational capability of the organization.
That sounds very interesting. Thank you, Shakil, for sharing with us. So before we end this interesting session on CRMA and its practical application for many organizations, I would like to ask the last and most important question with regards to the market demand and its applicability. How do we go about helping our IM resellers and partners in offering this as a service for the organizations who are looking out for such assessment?
Yes, usually the CRMA tends to be a bit more overlooked by several organizations as a standard risk assessment exercise or even the compliance assessment. So we do support our partners and resellers in providing assistance at every step of the sales journey, not just by raising the awareness about this service, but also give a special attention to our potential customers who may want to understand the dynamics of where their organization stands in today's emerging threat landscape.
And how does this as a service reflect the value proposition in the market to bring attention to our customers and provide a tailored approach towards cyber resilience and maturity assessment?
So we have a dedicated team of cybersecurity experts with industry credentials that will significantly provide a competitive advantage on the selling point to the customers and help them to build the long-term relationship with us. Therefore, when we engage with our customers regarding any of our GRC related services, we first understand their business requirements and discuss the relevant details in order to determine what is needed and what is not needed. This helps us to better understand the prospects of our customer and to be aligned with their expectations. And I would like to add this point that we at IM are 100% channel focused and we don't compete. Our service portfolio can complement our partners and resellers with a profound excellence in delivering the valuable service.
Thank you so much, Shakil, for joining us in this session.
Thank you very much.
So with that, thank you so much everyone for joining this session, and should you have any queries, please feel free to contact us. Take care and stay safe.